In the heart of a dense forest, hidden away from prying eyes, stood an ancient mansion. Its once grand facade was now a crumbling testament to forgotten glory. Overgrown ivy snaked its way up the decaying walls, and shattered windows stared out like empty eye sockets. Locals whispered tales of the mansion being cursed, haunted by the spirits of those who had met untimely ends within its walls. On a moonless night, 5 adventurous teenagers dared each other to spend the night in the abandoned mansion. Their names were Alex, Sarah, Max, Emily, and Jake. Fueled by bravado and youthful curiosity, they crept through the forest, their flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. As they reached the mansion's imposing entrance, a chill ran down their spines. The air seemed to grow colder, and the wind whispered ominous warnings. Ignoring their growing unease, they pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The interior was even more decrepit than they had imagined. Dusty furniture lay strewn about, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like eerie tapestries. The scent of decay hung heavy in the air, suffocating their senses. With nervous laughter, they explored the mansion, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. But as the night wore on, strange things began to happen. Shadows danced in the corners of their vision, and faint whispers echoed through the corridors. Just as they were beginning to regret their decision, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, freezing them in their tracks. Panic-stricken, they realized that one of their own was missing. Emily's scream echoed through the mansion, sending shivers down the spines of her friends. Frantically, they searched every room, calling out her name, but there was no sign of her. Fear gripped their hearts as they realized that they were not alone in the mansion. With trembling hands, they huddled together, their minds racing with terror. What could have taken Emily? Was it the curse of the mansion come to life, or something far more sinister? As they debated their next move, a chill wind swept through the mansion, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as they groped blindly in the blackness, their hearts pounding with fear. Suddenly, a faint light flickered in the distance, drawing them towards it like moths to a flame. With cautious steps, they followed the light, their senses heightened to the slightest sound. As they reached the source of the light, they found themselves in a vast, cavernous room. In the center stood a grand staircase, its steps worn with age. At the top of the staircase, a figure stood shrouded in shadow, beckoning them forward with a ghostly hand. With trepidation, they ascended the staircase, each step echoing like a drumbeat in the stillness of the night. As they reached the top, the figure before them vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the chilling laughter that echoed through the empty halls. Confusion and fear gripped the group as they stood at the top of the staircase, the echoes of the ghostly laughter fading into the silence of the mansion. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they tried to make sense of what they had just witnessed. Sarah, the most level-headed of the group, spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to find Emily and get out of here. Whatever's going on, it's not safe." Nodding in agreement, the others cast wary glances around the dimly lit room. Shadows danced on the walls, and strange whispers seemed to emanate from the very air itself. The oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on them, pressing down like an invisible force. Max, the self-proclaimed skeptic of the group, scoffed nervously. "This is ridiculous. There's no such thing as ghosts. Emily probably just got lost or wandered off somewhere." Before anyone could respond, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, causing them to shake in their frames. The whispers grew louder, filling the room with an otherworldly chorus of voices. Words seemed to form in the cacophony, but they were unintelligible, like fragments of a long-forgotten language. Jake, usually the joker of the group, paled visibly, his bravado crumbling in the face of the unknown. "Okay, maybe there's something weird going on here," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. With a sense of urgency, they pressed on, determined to find Emily and escape the haunted mansion. But with each passing moment, the feeling of dread only grew stronger, as if some malevolent presence were watching their every move, waiting to strike. As they continued their search for Emily, the mansion seemed to twist and shift around them, corridors leading to dead ends and rooms appearing where none had been before. Time lost its meaning as they wandered through the endless labyrinth of the haunted mansion, their sense of direction slipping away like grains of sand through their fingers. In the midst of their confusion, they were assailed by visions from the past. Ghostly apparitions flickered in and out of existence, replaying scenes of horror and tragedy. They saw glimpses of the mansion's dark history, of lives lost and souls trapped within its walls. Sarah stumbled upon a dusty old photograph lying forgotten on a decrepit table. It depicted a family, their faces twisted in anguish, standing in front of the mansion many years ago. With a sinking feeling in her heart, she recognized the faces as those of the mansion's former occupants, the victims of a tragic fire that had consumed the mansion decades ago. Max's skepticism wavered as he witnessed the spectral images that haunted the mansion's halls. "This place is cursed," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the ghostly wails that echoed through the corridors. Emily's voice echoed in their minds, a haunting reminder of the friend they had lost. With renewed determination, they pressed on, their only hope of escape lying in finding her and unraveling the mysteries of the mansion. But as they delved deeper into the darkness, they realized that the true horror of the mansion was not in its crumbling walls or ghostly apparitions, but in the memories it held, memories of pain, loss, and the unending torment of those who had dared to trespass upon its cursed grounds. Driven by desperation and fear, the remaining 4 friends ventured deeper into the mansion, their flashlights barely piercing the thick darkness that surrounded them. Each step forward felt like a descent into madness, the oppressive atmosphere weighing heavily on their souls. They stumbled upon a room unlike any they had seen before. The walls were lined with mirrors, their surfaces tarnished and cracked, reflecting distorted images of the group back at them. As they cautiously approached, they noticed something odd. Their reflections seemed to move independently, their faces contorting into grotesque masks of anguish. Max reached out tentatively to touch one of the mirrors, his fingers grazing the cold surface. In an instant, his reflection reached out and grabbed him, pulling him into the mirror's depths with a chilling scream. Shock and horror washed over the remaining 3 friends as they watched helplessly, unable to save their friend from whatever fate awaited him on the other side. With trembling hands, they tried to pry him free, but it was no use. The mirror held him captive, its surface rippling like water. As they stood in stunned silence, they heard Max's voice echoing from within the mirror, distorted and twisted by unseen forces. "Help me," he pleaded, his words filled with agony. "Get out while you still can." With a heavy heart, they realized that they were running out of time. The mansion was a prison, trapping them within its cursed walls, and they were powerless to escape its grasp. With a newfound sense of urgency, they vowed to find a way out, no matter the cost. But as they turned to leave, they realized that the mansion had other plans for them, plans that would plunge them into the depths of terror and despair. With Max trapped within the mirror, the remaining 3 friends pressed on, their resolve tested by each passing moment. They stumbled upon a hidden chamber deep within the mansion, its walls adorned with strange symbols and arcane markings. In the center of the room lay an ancient tome, its pages yellowed with age and bound in cracked leather. As they approached, a sense of foreboding washed over them, but they knew that they had no choice but to uncover the secrets that lay within. With trembling hands, Sarah opened the tome, revealing pages filled with cryptic incantations and forbidden rituals. As she scanned the text, her blood ran cold. The mansion was bound by a curse that could only be broken by performing a ritual of sacrifice. Emily's fate became clear as they read on. She was to be the vessel through which the curse would be broken, her life offered up to appease the spirits that haunted the mansion. But there was a catch. Once the ritual began, there would be no turning back. Emily's soul would be forever bound to the mansion, condemned to wander its halls for eternity. Torn between their desire to save their friend and the knowledge that they may never escape the mansion's clutches, the remaining three friends faced an impossible choice. With heavy hearts, they knew that they had no other option. They would have to perform the ritual and hope that it was enough to break the curse once and for all. But as they prepared to enact the ancient incantation, a sense of dread washed over them. They knew that the ritual would come at a price that would haunt them long after they had escaped the mansion's grasp. And as they uttered the final words of the incantation, they braced themselves for the horrors that awaited them on the other side. As the last words of the ritual echoed through the chamber, a deafening silence fell over the mansion. The air grew heavy with anticipation as the three friends waited, their hearts pounding in their chests. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble beneath their feet, and the walls of the chamber shook violently. A blinding light filled the room as the curse that had plagued the mansion for centuries was finally broken. But as the light faded, they realized that their ordeal was far from over. Standing before them was a spectral figure, the embodiment of all the suffering and anguish that had plagued the mansion for so long. With a blood-curdling scream, the spirit lunged at them, its twisted form contorting in the darkness. Sarah, Jake, and Emily stood their ground, their courage bolstered by the knowledge that they had faced their fears and emerged victorious. In a final act of desperation, they unleashed the power of the ritual, banishing the spirit back to the depths of the mansion once and for all. As the echoes of their victory faded, they found themselves standing outside the mansion, bathed in the warm light of the rising sun. Their ordeal was finally over, but the memories of their harrowing experience would stay with them forever. As they made their way back to civilization, they knew that they would carry the weight of their shared trauma with them, a reminder of the darkness that lurked within the abandoned mansion. But despite the horrors they had faced, they emerged stronger, their bond forged in the crucible of fear and survival. And as they looked back at the mansion one last time, they knew that they had conquered their demons and that nothing would ever be able to break their spirit again.